A man in Florida consumed one of these, and 2 days later, when the medics got to his apartment, they found him with his tongue resting beside him on the bed. Beside that, his penis. Life, it's not easy, is it? Since the dawn of time, people have attempted to get out of the boxes, off the trolleys, and to create altered states of consciousness. Out of this astronomically complicated machine we have to interpret reality, and out of the mechanics we have to make sense of that and bring it into our everyday lives. And if you think you're clean or more evolved than that, think back to the playground where you'd spin so hard you would collapse. You would get the air squeezed out of your stomach by friends and cause hyperventilation. These are all entry-level getting out of your boxes, altered states of consciousness. In ancient Hindu traditions, Shiva had a datura plant growing from his chest, and the ecstatic creator god fell in love with the datura seeds, especially when mixed with cannabis. All the way through the Greek and Roman civilizations, for example, the oracle at Delphi used henbane to induce visions and premonitions of the future. Throughout medieval Europe, the witches used henbane and belladonna to create states of ecstasy and profound divine insight. But here, in South America, from Peru to Mexico, the shamans used this, the brugmansia. Better known as the angel's trumpet or the devil's trumpet. This plant, or flower above my head, is one of the most poisonous flowers in the world. But getting to it's not going to be so easy, so to get up there into the flute of this magical tree, I'm going to get my van. Here we go. Let's see. Right there, the brugmansia. It's a member of the great potato tribe, including tobacco, potatoes, but this flower is the most poisonous plant in the world. It was first discovered here in South America by Alexander von Humboldt, and it was categorized as a datura, and it was later recategorized as a brugmansia. It holds very similar ethogens to the datura. It's full of scopolamine and atropines, and because of that, let me grab this for you. Let's get this down to the van and we'll go over it. In Christina Platt's Dictionary of Shamanism, she says that this causes severe disconnection from reality, full central nervous system seizure, and death when applied incorrectly. Brugmansia suaveolens. The plant is deadly. We'll begin with the flower here. When they're seen in brugmansia trees, which grow to about 35 feet high in some cases, pointing down, pendulous, they're known as angels' trumpets, speaking towards hell. But when they're on the ground pointing up, like the datura plant, they're known as devil's trumpets, because they're speaking upwards to heaven. And every single part of this plant can be consumed, from the seeds to the leaves. However, in doing so, you're taking your life in your hands. If the leaf or the calyx casing or any part of this flower is eaten, it results in extreme visual hallucinations, confusion sets, and if the alkaloid level is too high and there's no controlling it, it raises and lowers by the month. Every night towards the full moon it gets stronger. It will take you to the very bounds of reality, and in most cases with children using it in recreational instances in North America, they either come out of it baked or dead. In 1825, this plant, the brugmansia, was imported to Hawaii, and it's now part of their shamanic tradition. On the island, it was known as Nanahua, gazing towards earth, and it was smoked, and it was said to have the power to create celestial insight and a direct communication with the dead. Now here in Colombia, this has been used for thousands of years, and in traditional shamanic use it was mixed with maize and tobacco and given to the families of the dead Zipas and Zakis, the kings. Why was it given to them? For when their ruler had died, the entire family was buried alive, and this took away the pain, took away the fear of impending death. That is how powerful it is. And this is where we get the idea of zombie slaves from. The application on the funeral rituals of the Muisca people who evolved from the Chibcha language group in Colombia. The plant is especially given to 13-year-old children or children that have behavioural problems. Once the child is given the tea prepared by the shaman, the atropines kick in and raise his heartbeat, makes his eyes dilate. He becomes hypersensitive to light. You can see in the dark, quite literally, with this plant. And over the first 6 hours, the child's nervous system begins to close. He might lose his sight. Then his smell will go. And as he goes back into that pre-birth-like state, that cosmic cocoon known in Colombia as Tomza, the child met his inner or higher self and came back from the experience a fully formed adult, having let go of his memories of childhood. But to really understand how these medicinal applications work and ritual applications work, we should really get into the belly of the beast. And here, the calyx tube is where all the activity happens. So what we're going to do is cut this devil apart and look at the ovaries of the beast. Can you see it? If we peel back the calyx tube, here we are, the 5 male stamens. The plant emits such a powerful scent at night, hence the reason it's called a moonflower, that it attracts moths. The moths come along, the pollination travels down the stem tube into the ovary of the plant, where the ethogens are produced, the scopolamine and all the atropines. Scopolamine is responsible for the hallucinogenic-like states of the brew, where the atropines, it creates the dilation of the pupils, the trichocardia, and together they create the altered state of consciousness. Medicinally, the leaf can be applied directly as a poultice to an infected wound. It can aid with the healing of broken bones. It can be placed behind the ear to relieve headaches. Except you shouldn't really touch it because the skin can absorb this scopolamine. There are such high levels of ethogen around the full moon attracting those moths that they become exceptionally dangerous to touch and even be around. And it's said to sleep under the tree of a brugmansia will bring great prophetic insight. However, in modern Colombia, scopolamine has been refined by criminal gangs. It's known as devil's breath. 50,000 people in Colombia last year were hit with this trick. Someone approaches you on the street, possibly with a map or a card, and they ask you for directions or to read the number. They blow the devil's breath into the face. And within 6 minutes, that person is rendered completely susceptible to suggestion. They become a zombie. For example, a woman's taken into a car, and it's suggested to her that we might go to her ATM and clean out her credit cards. Of course, that's a wonderful idea to the victim. We might go to a hooky lawyer and have you sign over the deeds of your business or your house. All under the power of scopolamine. You will quite happily do it. It will make sense to you. You've lost your faculties of reason and rational judgment to the ethogen. While scopolamine is one of the most poisonous plants in the world, it was used 50,000 times in crime last year in Colombia, And out of context, that sounds horrendous. What a social problem. Nah, not really. There's 50 million live here, so that's 0.1% of the population. You must compare that to incidents of alcohol abuse or narcotic abuse in the Western world. I can imagine those numbers would be around a similar percentage. But out of context, 50,000 people getting taken on scopolamine every year sounds horrendous. The Brugmansia is said to grow to about 35 feet high. My one's at 40 feet. Look at the size of that flower. The devil's breath. The angel's trumpet. So I have a whole Brugmansia corner. I call it my nightshade for obvious reasons. But the plant is absolutely magnificent. Look at it in its glory. And interestingly, the shape of the tree, or the shrub, is the same shape as the flower. The calyx tubes that the flowers emanate from. The fruit, if you like, that holds the seeds and the ethogens. But they are a poison fruit. Next time.